After those three simple moments of religion, moments that define, if you like, our attitude with respect to God and our respect with respect to God. After those three simple moments, which are moments of the free will, of the intelligence and of common sense, after those three moments we return to the world. We have visited the sacred place, now we are returning. And in our lives we have to live our daily duties, we have our daily joys, we are alive and we know our time is limited and we know we belong to a certain place which we call home. During our lives, our daily lives, when we work, when we take time to relax, when we communicate with others and when we are on our own, we can, as it were, let our religious moments, those three religious moments in the sacred place, we can let them bear fruit. We can allow our soul to become religious because we have confirmed by our acts that we want to be religious. We want to pay respect to the Lord. And so in our lives we can progressively let this consciousness, this religious awareness grow. And in a certain way we thereby sanctify our daily lives. The world itself becomes like a sacred place. In a limited time that is given to us, and in the place where we are, we can be religious and shape our lives in a religious way. From the beginning to the end, we are on our way. And here we see two moments of reflection that can be religious. With our soul, with our mind, with our will, we can sort of direct our lives in a religious sense. And here there are two moments of simplicity that are very important, and they are the fourth and the fifth moment. One moment is the moment of goodness, and the other moment is the moment of the truth. Let's first treat the moment of goodness. When we reflect on the past, we can see that in our lives we have received good things. We have seen good things from our parents, from our friends, from teachers, or from our trainers. We have received good things, things that have helped us in life. And this goodness may not be easy to define, but there must be a simple source. The goodness is maybe very elaborate. We have received from many different people a lot of goodness, or we have maybe received very little goodness from other people. But we can reflect on the source of all this goodness. We don't know if God is good, but the goodness that we have experienced it must come from somewhere. And the people we've received the goodness from, the love, the loving things, the loving gestures, they have received them also from somewhere else. They may seem to have emerged spontaneously, but that just means that the person who was good to us had a secret that we didn't know. When we reflect on the goodness in the world, and when we admit that there is goodness in this world that we receive, and that maybe we want to transmit, we see that there is a very sort of secret aspect of goodness. Also because we don't remember very well what goodness we received when we were very small, when we were tiny in the womb of our mother, or when we were very small as babies. The origin of goodness has a lot to do. It's like wrapped in secrecy. But it must, in the end, or rather in the beginning, it must also emerge from this God that we do not know. So when we reflect on goodness, we reflect on the beginning of all things. It's as if we open our hearts to receive a goodness that is hidden for us, which is the divine goodness. Of course, we can sort of guess there must be goodness in God, but if we have not experienced goodness in our life, when we have no experience of not just love as a feeling, but love as something strong that is proven, that is manifested to us, then it's very hard to figure out what that means, the goodness in God. So the search of the beginning, a search that is interesting to us, that involves all our personality, that original meaning of our life, it's often through the goodness that we are motivated to search the source of all things, because we have received. And maybe we want to transmit, we want to pass on the goodness that we have received. We have received life, we want to give life to others. Others have died for us in the past because they were motivated by some kind of love. They have given their lives because they loved. They have given their lives for a good cause. And we want to know that good cause, because it might also make our sacrifices worthwhile. The sacrifices in our life, and maybe even the sacrifice of our life. So the search for goodness is in fact the search of God. So we must give goodness a place in our lives, not so much because in our religious virtue we immediately understand the goodness of God, but because goodness has come through us. Someone has always loved us before we loved ourselves, before we could love others. Someone has manifested his love for us before we could manifest our love in any way, for others or for ourselves. So the fact that we always have somebody before us who loves us, and it's important to experience that, even if it's only the trainer who wants us to be a champion and who shouts at us that we are worthless, because he's shouting that not because we are worthless, although we might be for a moment, but a trainer who shouts at us, you're worthless, we know that he does so because he wants us to be a champion. So it's good to search the experience of goodness and of love and of respect in our lives in order to understand that it must have come from somewhere. We can only guess about the goodness of God. If He is supreme, if He's the supreme eternal being, He doesn't need us. So if He has created us, it must be out of some kind of goodness, some kind of gratuity. And I would even say, out of some kind of gratuitous love. But I have no direct experience of it. But I can question it, I can investigate, I can wonder, I can be amazed by the experience I had in my life of a goodness, of a love that was there before me, before I could answer. And then I will be more open to receive any other sign of God's goodness. And that thirst, that search for the source of all goodness, it is a religious experience. It is a very simple religious moment.